I almost feel like there's a big health crisis of sorts that's being exposed.
Going through 5 years of a search for a diagnosis and not being able to be covered by insurance for 90% of it, spending $500,000 of my own dollars on testing.
The concept of the power of belief.
Out of all the modalities that you've done, what is the biggest thing that's helped you the most? And I said, it's the belief, and it's proof that we have control of our own body, we have control of our mind.
The American people are set up for systemic failure, whether they believe it or not.
I'm still on a healing journey. I still have a million answers to find.
Morgie, good to be with you.
This is nice.
Yeah, been too long. It's been a few months. We've both been on the road. You've had a great year playing again, and I've been competing a little bit too, but it's been a while since we've been in the same place. And I think we've both seen a lot of messages of encouragement from our community and people that they want us to keep making pods, and we do too, most importantly, which is fun. But it's encouraging to hear, I think, the uplifting, spirits and folks that have felt impacted by the pod and want us to keep going. That was motivating to me.
Making pods or making putts?
Both are good. They go 1 and 1.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like, I think today we're just going to go off of what either one says and just kind of go into a conversation that we always have. And I think something for the listeners to know is that you and I have these conversations that go on for hours based on just what the other says and giving our opinion, giving our life experiences. And it's pretty special because like you've learned so much from all the people you've surrounded yourself with in your life. And you've been very good at that and very passionate about that. And I feel the same as well. And just, I think the first thing you said of really feeling that energy of others supporting you is something that I've tried to embrace lately. And it's been something difficult for me in my life to do because feel like I've been a lone wolf for a long time. And that's no downplay to my wife or daughter or family or friends. It's just something personal that I've been working through, and that if you utilize the energy that others give you in a positive way, I think it can really be uplifting, not in a way that like it can carry you through the hard times, but just being grateful for it and realizing and remembering that feeling that others believe in you is like really, really cool.
100%. I mean, the power's in together. Right. I mean, the concept of together we transform. Right. I mean, it's the more power behind more people behind a movement. It's inspiring. Right. And so, I mean, let's set the stage here. It's October 11th. We're less than a month out from what's an incredibly polarizing election in our country. There's a lot of topics that you and I are incredibly passionate about. And I would call you, for me, you've been an illuminator of so many things that I frankly didn't even have awareness of a couple of years ago. Most namely when it comes to the health and wellness of my own body and thinking of the things that I'm putting in it. And somewhere right now I'm hearing a whistle from Camila Villegas, who first tried to illuminate a lot of the choices I would make with my diet when I was a kid. But he's been proud to see that I've turned a direction and, being mindful to it. But you really have been a beacon to me of seeing past what is societally normal for whether it's taking care of your body, what you're putting into it, and then also ultimately the treatment of what's been, a diagnosis in your life. But I really believe as I have become educated through you and educated through the powers of the stories that are being told on other direct source media, whether it's Joe Rogan's podcast with the conversations that, the Ways to Well and Brigham Bueller were having recently, or Casey and Callie Means, and talking about how the American people are set up for failure, systemic failure, when it comes to our healthcare and food systems. And when I think about that, And I feel like I have opened my eyes to see how clearly obvious this is. The root of the evil that's in it is obviously in the incentive structure. I mean, there's a quote that I absolutely love from Charlie Munger, which is timelessly true. Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. And our system is set up with completely improper incentives around actually making the human being healthy. And this is something that I have definitely become incredibly passionate about in recent times as it's become illuminated in my life. But as I think about it back directly with you, I mean, you had a direct face-to-face encounter with a diagnosis with the Western medical system that, for lack of a better term, I'm not going to speak for you, I'm just going to share a perspective, obviously, but for lack of a better term, set you up for failure and saying there's no answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of just want to talk about your experience walking through the system a little bit and what you've learned and how you've been able to counteract where you're at, you know?
Yeah, well, it's a very well designed system. It's been thought through. We were talking about this the other day about this has been 100-year plan. Like I'm trying to conquer myself and getting down the next 5 years on paper and trying to get this motivation going to plan out my life. And these people were very smart. The Rockefellers started this revolution of sick continuation and saw a profit in it and held back a lot of technologies and inventions that they knew wouldn't give them more money in their bank account, right? And like what are corporations and what are hospitals really doing? They're just trying to make money. Mm-hmm. And once I understood that hospitals are for-profit businesses, it really set a light bulb off in my head. And I was like, oh wow, like they're not out for each individual patient and trying to make them healthy. They're just trying to keep them coming back and trying to keep refilling those pill bottles and keeping them sick because it's so profitable.
But not like, to interject there a little bit, like I don't know if I believe that the challenge lies in just something being a for-profit entity as much as the incentive and structure that's within that profit entity is the challenge, right? If hospitals were a for-profit entity and benefited off of getting patients off of pharmaceutical drugs, right? They got benefits from insurance carriers to actually make human beings more healthy. I think this would be a great for-profit system. I don't think the problem necessarily lies at the root of profit.
But there's an end to that. If you create healthy people, they're not going to keep coming back.
True.
Unless you create a new system.
Yeah.
Which is what we're trying to create.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to speak on it right now, but like have some great people talking and creating amazing ideas and things that can actually make people healthy and happy long term and more self-sufficient. And I think that's really the way that the masses are going to start going, hopefully. I think this last epidemic was a revolution in self-discovery and research because it gave people time to sit on their computers and on TikTok and Instagram and have the algorithm give more information, more like-minded outlets and videos that were just like never really in these people's scopes before. Because when people search how to naturally cure something or how do I do this, then there's so much information out there about that now that is available but is continuing to be censored, which is tough to realize because, as we said, like we want them, or the doctors and the insurance companies and ultimately the banks are wanting people to remain sick because, like, look at Bill Gates's speeches about depopulation. Like, it's pretty insane. when you dive into all of the speeches that these people are giving, like Davos and what's his name? I can't think about it right now, but it's wild that these elites, these higher ups, are just trying to make the population smaller. I think, and it's sad to hear, because if you, like, we're in Georgia right now, right, and we're talking to the staff all day, and the servers and the waiters and the chefs, and you realize that there's so much good in the world, because there's a hurricane that just came through here, and everybody here is trying to help each other and get generators for the people who have lost power for 3 weeks and get them food. And I think ultimately human beings are good, and I've seen it, and I believe in it. And when you see things like poisoning populations or putting ingredients in food that is just made from chemicals and ultimately is going to just slowly poison people, it's really sad, because it's like, how did they get there? How did these people who are deciding this get to this place to be like, okay, we need to make food cheaper, we need to make it easier to produce, we need to make just like more and more and more, and not focus on like the health of our population and the health of like human beings. It's pretty wild to me, and that's what's inspired me the last almost 10 years now of trying to realize that and understand that the human being is naturally healing. And it can, like, think about if you cut yourself, right? Like, you don't have to do anything. It's going to heal on its own. Or if you get sick, like, or if you have a fever, what's the first thing that your body does or doesn't do? It's sitting around and doing nothing, or laying in bed and not eating, or maybe having a tea, and just like your body naturally will heal itself and get rid of the toxins in it. So when you continue to put toxins in your body that are like from cereal or candy or things that really don't exist naturally, and or even taken from a plant and taking the active ingredient from it and making it into a pill, like, these things are not gonna long term create health for the population. It's gonna create sickness, and therefore keep the hospitals and like pharmaceutical companies thriving.
I mean, one of the things I've learned as I've been exposed to this more and started to do my own research, a lot of it was through you, a lot of it's through other podcasts, like I said. I mean, a difference I feel like I've come to understand when it comes to healthcare, and I remember talking about this with our conversation with Kelly Gores, is like there's a fundamental difference that lies with acute care and chronic, right? Like, we've made great advancements to heal or have an acute cure for a broken bone,
for sure,
or some kind of issue that is a major incident of some sort, right? Or a
this
quick
is not
illness
what we're talking about,
right? The difference really lies in the concept of these chronic illnesses, where you're diagnosed with some sort of perpetual disease that enlists you into taking a pharmaceutical drug in this perpetuity, right? Which, like, fundamentally, think about it. Name me a better business model in history than you need to take this every day forever. Like, it's an unbelievable business model. And so, again, I think what I'd be curious to ask you about is for someone listening, and I'm even asking this in my own life, my instinct towards whether it's a proactive health plan or a reactive to something that was going on with my body would be to first go to my doctor, right? Which would be traditionally in a hospital setting. If I wanted to look beyond that, right, and I wanted to start to look towards what I could be doing with just the choices I was making, where do you start? Like, how can you start to look beyond the system that we're all known and used to here in the States?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's just basic breaking it down into questioning what is best for human beings in a physical standpoint. And I don't know if there's someone who truly thinks about it and is like, I really think protein bars and candy and chips and sodas that are completely manufactured are going to be good for me. Even though, like, even the things that are marketed as, oh, this is good, or it's high protein or whatever, like, if you really think about it and you really question someone who, say, isn't educated on the matter, or someone who is trying to be educated on it, like, they're not going to sit there and tell you, yeah, this is what we really should be eating.
Right.
The places that I started looking were just nutritionists, I would say.
Yeah.
And a lot of them that I've found have so many different views. And it's really hard these days, because if you type in, like, what's a healthy diet into Google, like, so many things come up.
There's probably no propaganda in that first few results, frankly.
Yes, a lot. And ads,
Yeah.
right? And there's definitely so many routes to go. And it's one of the hardest things that my wife, Chelsea, and I talk about a lot. It's like, where do you find information these days? And where do you find trusted information? And I think ultimately it's within experimentation with yourself and dedication of, okay, I'm gonna not eat this for a couple weeks and see how it feels. Because you can read all the books and research papers, but ultimately you need to feel it for yourself. And when my trainer, Don Saladino, told me to stop eating dairy and gluten, I was like, why? Like, how is that possible? Like, what do you mean don't eat dairy? What do you mean don't put cheese on my Jersey Mike sandwich, or don't put cheese on my burger, or don't eat, like, milk with my cereal? You know, like, that was unfathomable to me, because it was the natural way, the American diet. And once I went about 2 months without eating dairy, I was sleeping better. I was having more mental clarity. I felt like I could recover quicker. It was just wild to me that something that simple, but seemed hard at the time, could make such an impact on my life. And now I've realized that, like, my viewpoint has changed on dairy, because the dairy that I'm talking about, and the dairy that I think is very important to get rid of, is the highly processed, antibiotic fed cows, like, preservative added dairy that you see on the shelves that are just mass produced, you know? But I think raw cow milk is beneficial if the cow is raised properly, and not fed with hormones and antibiotics and are giving shots all the time. And if they're truly, truly free range, not like free range, which you see in an advertisement, and grass fed, like you see in an advertisement, which everything can be gotten around these days, because there's a way to profit from it. So, like, if you see free range advertised, it means they could be outside for like 2 hours a day, and the rest of the time they're inside, like, shackled and just getting milked and, like, pumped with antibiotics. And it's just really crazy to understand when you see what truly is happening with our food industry in the United States.
Yeah.
And, like, even look at, like, Kellogg cereal in United States ingredients versus, like, Europe or Italy. Right. There's a fifth of the ingredients.
Yeah. No, the stat I heard the other day is mind blowing.
It's
insane.
And
I remembered it because I was so taken by it. But it was Casey and Calamines that were talking about it, and they said in 1951 there were 700 ingredients that were FDA approved in the United States. FDA and EPA approved in the United States, and equally in Europe by a different governmental agency, right, that oversaw Europe. Today, there's over 10,000 approved in the United States, and there's still just 700 approved in Europe. And it's like, you think about that conceptually, and it's like we all have that when you travel to Italy, right? We go over there and we eat all the pasta and we eat the pizzas, and it's like, what the heck? Like, why do I not feel so heavy? And you're like, well, maybe it's because I'm walking around more. You like theorize all these things. And it's like, actually, maybe it's because the pasta and the pizza you were eating was from a pure wheat or a pure ingredient source that's a single source ingredient versus something that has all of these different 25 letter chemicals in it. And it's
grown
like,
by local farmers.
right.
Like,
And the concept of like, somewhere in the last, 50 to 70 years, we replaced the chefs in the kitchen with the scientists and took all, if you go back to again, incentive structure, who owns so many of these mass food companies, like several of them are owned by the original tobacco companies that invented, the cigarette forms that had these incredible addictive qualities to them that they've then replaced and put into foods. And those foods now have the same addictive qualities, right, in our chips that we eat and our cereals that we eat. And the worst part is it's getting into children, right? We're going to our schools and we're giving Fruit Loops and nonsense to our kids that start them off on this terrible trajectory, and it's systemic. And that's why, I said at the beginning, it's like the American people are set up for systemic failure, whether they believe it or not. And you have to actively work against the system to look out for your own health. And I think what we're seeing now is this great awakening. And part of it is it comes, form in touch with the conversations we're having here, and that you can have direct to source. You and I are having a conversation based in our own opinion. We're not bought by anybody. We don't have to sell any of our opinions to some advertiser base like the news does to these companies, right, that incentivize them. And, again, you look at, another thing, it's like, I know I'm all over the place, but I'm passionate about it. Like medical schools. The vast majority of funding that comes behind medical schools is actually funded by pharmaceutical companies.
Exactly.
Again, the root lies in the incentive structure, and it's completely fucked up.
Well,
but how do we get into that? And it's through education. To me, it's like we have to talk about these things, and we hear it more than ever. People are curious. People are dying. Chronic illness is at all-time highs. Depression is at all-time highs. We have more antidepressants subscribed than ever before to people, and yet our depression rates are the highest they've ever been. And science tells you that exercise has a better chance of making you happier, getting less depressed than taking an SSRI.
For sure.
Yet we're more prescribed than ever.
Yeah.
So, it just, I think my answer to the question I originally asked to you is like, it starts with a common sense response in yourself. It's like looking past the veil of trusting that this society is looking out for you, looking past the veil that our healthcare system is necessarily has your best interest at stake. But that's a scary road to start to walk down for a lot of folks. And it's scary to start to see the issues that lie. And I'm afraid that there's going to be a lot that's going to get uncovered. But through that education and through talking about it, I'm very hopeful that we can build to a better future. And I'm totally hopeful in humanity, but I really believe that having conversations like this is a huge part of it.
Yeah, I think to go back on the question you answered is like, how do you find information on this?
Yeah.
There's some unbelievable documentaries out there right now, like
Love it.
Seaspiracy, Cowspiracy. Go on to type into Google or go into DuckDuckGo maybe because Google might like block it, but go to Thrive Movie. There's 2 now that basically describes the whole system and how the banks are really the ones that are running the United States, and presidency and government it's all just pawns, I think. And they're it's crazy to say that. I don't know. Yeah. I don't want to get into the political side of it, but
no, but I think it would be short-sighted to hear a comment like that and think that it's anti-American. Like you and I, we're like, at least I'm diehard patriot here. Like we talked about it with Rogers. It's like the things we're exposing and talking about, like this is what we believe firmly is in the best interest of the country. And you go back to what the founding fathers instilled in the concept of the original America, and it's like, this country was based in free speech. And that's been something that's been limited tremendously.
Yeah.
And so, but my point is like this conversation to me, you know, I don't care if you're right wing, left wing, we're talking about the same bird. Like we're on the same team here. We're on Team Human.
Oh yeah. I'm not down talking poorly about the United States. I'm just putting the facts out there that the United States is not, it's not a country. It's a corporation.
Yes.
And like, there's so many things that I've found that it's just like, wow, I realize that the government really isn't out for us. You know, like we've been lied to, and history for that matter. Like there's so many things that have happened that aren't in the history books, and things that we've learned when we were kids that we thought were the ultimate truth, you know, like think about the oil industry and how that started, and how gasoline and how even electric cars are coming to light now. Like it's all because of I think the creation of more and different streams of revenue for the banks and the higher ups, but also like it's creating even further distance from original creations and inventions. Like you don't need gasoline to run a car. You can run a car off water. Like there's water engines that were created in the past, like 50, 60, 70 years ago. And they've just been shoved under the rug because you can't make a profit off of it, you know? And that's kind of the concept I've taken with the healthcare system and just my personal experiences with it, and these things that I'm saying on here. I'm not trying to go after anyone. This is just the research that I've done, in my personal time, and I think this could trigger a lot of different views on what I'm saying, and I'm okay with that. Like it's just, this is how I've gone about my life, and I think everybody has their own viewpoint, and I encourage that, and I want to hear the feedback for it. But to circle back to healthcare, I going through 5 years of a search for a diagnosis and not being able to be covered by insurance for 90% of it, spending $500,000 of my own dollars on testing and trying to figure out what I have. Like it's crazy, and
Only to be told, good luck.
Yeah. Only be told like, okay, yeah, now there's no cure.
Right.
And one of the things that I have on my computer here is the amount of diseases that are labeled in the United States these days are astronomical. There's thousands and thousands. And like 50 years ago, there were some diseases that didn't even exist because there wasn't a name for them. They're just like making things up to be able to diagnose them and to give them a pill and to give them like,
wow,
keep coming back. I think a big topic today for me is about ingredients of everything, and how dark sided the ingredient world is. Like there's so many things that are completely unregulated.
Yeah.
Like to even have an organic label these days in the United States, like there's so many ways around it. It's insane.
I always wonder that, fundamentally, when I go grocery shopping, I try to source as much things organic as possible. Mm-hmm. I'm just buying a sticker. Like I really wonder sometimes, like, what is the fundamental difference? You know, like,
right? And how are we truly going to know?
Right.
You know, unless we're going into the now labs that are creating these fruits and look this. Here's a new. Speaking about corporations buying things up, I used to love to go to Whole Foods because I love the founder's idea of Whole Foods was to create Whole Foods and to create a healthy place for people to go and get their groceries.
John Mackey's a legend.
But since they've been bought by Amazon, like the moment they were bought by Amazon, I was going to Whole Foods 2 to 3 times a week in Florida to get my groceries and to shop mainly in the produce sections. And the moment Amazon bought them, you see different things on the shelves. You see less organic ingredients. You see less homemade things that are on the shelves. And now there's so many videos out there about it now that they have on the labels, especially in the pre-made food section, they have a thing called BE on the label. It's called bioengineered food labeling, which is basically a new way of saying these are GMOs, they're genetically modified. And it's like, it's scary. Like, why do they have to put bioengineered shit in our food to just preserve it more, to make it look cooler? Like, I mean, it's ridiculous and scary.
It is scary.
And completely unnecessary.
It is. I was thinking about it the other day in the context of the financial world with respect to the great financial crisis. And, most of us, I'm sure, if you haven't, it's a great movie, but the movie, The Big Short, which told the story of the great housing crisis, and, the systemic failure that was set up. And it's like, I almost feel like, I don't know what it should be called, but there's like a big health crisis of sorts that's like being exposed at the level that the great financial crisis was exposed. And we're starting to hear about these things, and it's, I'm more excited than I'm afraid of what's coming, because the truth, ultimately, is what needs to come out for us to be able to learn from it and move forward and be able to move our dollars as consumers to the right places. Because there are great humans in this world that want to produce amazing things, right? That want to source wholeful products and help people. I mean, I believe in humanity. I believe in the greater human spirit, and that there is a deep state in our government that has been involved for decades and decades, right? Even generational deep states, where they are suppressing the ability for good humans to actually put forth great products into the world that look out for the human being. But the more this gets illuminated, right, and thank God for, regardless of what you think of these different people that are illuminating the lights, I think, Bobby Kennedy's done an amazing job at starting to showcase, what's going on deep within the system. I mean, you've got a family that's been a lifeline to the Democratic Party since first coming to America. They were the anti-war family. They were the pro-human being, pro-healthcare, whatever it is, a true lifelong Democratic family. And suddenly you've got Bobby Kennedy leaving to support the Republican Party because he admits this party is completely foreign to me now. And but again, I believe in the power of humanity and the power that we as consumers in this country, we have the voting power at the end of the day, like by educating each other, by talking about what is important to the human body. We vote with our dollars. And ultimately, I believe in the power of entrepreneurs. I believe in the power of good human spirit. I think there's going to be a lot of great companies and brands that come out that are going to be really good sourced products, but we've got to educate,
Yeah, and figure out a way to integrate.
Right.
There's a lot of people right now that are discovering and doing their own research and feeling the effects of becoming more of a natural human, and that's what Nakawa is all about, and that's why we created it and are creating it to teach people how to be a human and let yourself be human and not, you don't have to ingest all these things that are just packaged, like
we're going to hit the gas pedal with Nakawa. Like I firmly believe it. I mean, hearing the stories, seeing the amount of energy that's behind the human spirit right now and wanting to get to the bottom of facts and wanting to take care of their bodies better. Like you and I are passionate about this, and I really believe in the vision for Nakawa is what it is. I think we're going to be able to create a lot of beautiful things, and the powers in the storytelling. We talk about this. It's like, there's more to come. There's more to come, but I believe we could start a great brand that really tells the truth in products. And
yeah, I mean, it's just the most exciting thing that I can ever elaborate on is when you put yourself in this state of being that's what I am defining as natural, is that so many things just happen for you. Like your ability to manifest things, your dreams, the ability to regrow organs or muscles or improve your eyesight or walk again if you're paralyzed. Like there's so, it's just absolute miracles that we have to deem miracles in this world today because it's so foreign and so ridiculous because we've been so brainwashed that this system of the only thing that I can do for myself or my child is to wait for a trial to come out if I have an incurable disease. I met a guy yesterday at the bar. He came up to me and he said, I have a son that has muscular dystrophy and it's Duchenne's. And Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, usually the kids don't live past they're 25 years old.
Wow.
And so I'm speaking to this father who knows his child pretty much is going to pass in a couple of years. And he's looking at me and he's like, my son was born into the right family because we're passionate about figuring out a way and passionate about giving him the best life that we can. And I think it's very admirable to hear that, but it's also sad to hear it in a way that like, he's like, yeah, I'm just waiting for the next trial to come out. We've done this. Like, and I'm like, there's other ways. Mm-hmm. Here's my number. Here's my email. I'm going to send you some things. Like there's a guy in Nepal that I went to that he specializes in Duchenne's and is getting kids out of wheelchairs like within a couple weeks. Wow. And he's up in the Himalayan mountains. He's extremely hard to find. But he has this practice now that is, he's basically finding these herbs that are in the middle of nowhere that you have to go like dig through the snow to get, rub on your body for 90 days straight. And then this like detoxification process happens along with a diet that you're supposed to eat. And it's just another proof of that the body can naturally heal itself with the things that are given to us on this earth.
Yeah.
Like there are so many plants, there are so many tools that grow out of the ground that we can just utilize. Yeah. And like, it's sad that we as a population have come to just put our trust in what someone else tells us.
And
like
what humans produce, right? It's like
right.
Earth.
Like the white coat is just the all-knowing, all-trusted. Like right. As you said, like we're not trying to. Doctors are amazing and very smart and do so much studying and to get where they are. And if I broke my bone or if my hand is discombobulated, I'm gonna go to a doctor to get a like reconstructed.
100%, yeah.
But the way that we've like I'm not speaking as an all-knowing thing. I'm not speaking as someone who's above anyone else who hasn't researched this. I'm speaking as a person who exactly was in your shoes of, I have no idea what the fuck is going on and I have to do my own research.
Right.
And it sucks that.
You were told there's no cure.
Yeah, no. And now like.
What do you do with that?
I just don't, you don't believe it. Like right. There's, of course there's things that, of course there's ailments that are very difficult to get rid of. And people are born with problems that might not ever heal. And like I'm saying, the majority of issues that the human body can present are, I think, come from acidosis and not being as alkaline as we should be.
What's acidosis?
Acidosis, it's basically like a simple science experiment, right? Like acid and a base, alkaline.
Got it.
Like if you're too acidic, then things start to arise. Like you grow tumors, you have like things that come up that the body is basically trying to signal to you that something's wrong.
Is that where like you would? It's like I just signed up to do one of these the other day. I'm doing a like a food sensitivity test to understand like what ingredients I'm more sensitive to, and maybe acids are a part of that. Like, is that related at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's foods that are more acidic.
Yeah,
but like it's something that you have to study because, like, sorry, Heather, my sister, but like we were in an argument one time, and I was like, lemons are extremely alkaline when ingested into the human body. But everyone will argue that a lemon is an acidic fruit because like it can break down things. You can clean with a lemon, but in the body, it's extremely alkaline. It's very cleansing.
Interesting.
So there's different fruits that when you have chemical reactions with your bile or your saliva, like create this cleansing effect in your body.
I don't know if this is statistically true or not. I know it's been spoken about, but it's certainly anecdotally in some form. Like the Japanese culture, I don't think we have to look far. I mean, their culture has an incredible esteem of health and wellness and traditions that stem back thousands and thousands of years. And one of them is to start the day with a glass of lemon water. That's like the first thing they put in their body. Like it's an ancient Japanese tradition.
I agree with that. And warm lemon water too.
Right.
Ideally, like when I was in Nepal, they told me never, when you're trying to heal, don't have anything cold because your body is 98.6 degrees, right? So if you have something cold, your digestion system is the biggest operation that's going on in your body. So if you can let that rest, then it gives time and the ability and the opportunity for the body to go and sense what else is going on and create autophagy, which is when the cells start eating the shit, basically. So when you go into a fast, then the body can relax with the digestion, which is, as I said, like the biggest thing that happens in your body and creates the most energy that goes on a daily basis. But what I was saying with the warm lemon water and the cold is that if you put something cold in your body first has to make it to the temperature of your body to be able to digest it. So that's one thing that like they were super adamant about, like don't be cold at all because it needs to like just have your body in this like perfect healing state. So for 4 months, I didn't have any ice in my drink. I didn't I had to take warm showers. And
yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, does that correlate to cold plunges? Because like I just got a cold plunge and I love it. It's like the first thing I'm doing in the mornings a lot of times. But I recently stopped. I have an amazing chiropractor I work with back home that's like super holistic and she's just freaking magic, this girl. But she's one. I've been trying to heal a knee injury. We haven't been able to figure it out. Like I've got an MRI. There was nothing that showed, but I'm still having a problem with it, right? And she was like, let's try doing no cold plunge for a little bit because I think one of the things you could be doing is stopping the blood flow to healing that area. And she generally is like a big proponent of heat over cold. But I was just curious as you were talking about that, if the same principle lies or not.
I mean, like everything, right? Like it's always good to have balance in your life. And if you do too much of anything, then it could cause problems. But I think, to me, I love the cold plunge. I think it's...
Me too.
It's great on so many levels. It reduces inflammation. But I think the biggest thing is it literally feels like a switch is turned on in my brain.
1,000%.
Like my brain is just like, okay, I'm alive now and I'm clear.
Yes.
So the description that I'm talking about for not having anything cold is based on an Ayurvedic way of healing. And they are also big into ghee.
I love ghee.
And I hate ghee. And I hate I just, dairy in general has always given me problems. And so when they they incorporated ghee. They were like, all right, we have to do this. We're going to rub this ghee on you, rub these herbs on you. And I was like, man, I have kind of a reaction to dairy. And so they were like, all right, well, you have to do this. And if you're going to fully embrace this process, then you got to do it. And I started like breaking out in hives, and like it was intense. And so, but they've had a lot of unbelievable results with it, and everybody's different, you know. And I think that's one of the things when you're talking about, how do I say this? When you're talking about creating a path for someone to understand how they can heal themselves, you really have to understand the person first. And it's so important to have customized programs. And I think that's what like the biggest thing about Nakawa is like this intake form that we're creating is like super detailed about your life and beliefs and who you talk to and what you watch on TV and what your ingredients are in your toothpaste and if it has fluoride or not. And like you have to understand the person first, and also ask the question, are you ready to heal? Yeah. Like that's a huge thinker, because immediately you're going to be, of course I am, but are you really? Are you? Because what that entails, what that entails is changing your life. Right. Because your life has created the issue that you have right now. So it's like a complete upheaval of lifestyle and unlearning and relearning. Wild. It's a lot. And
that's like, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I was just going to touch on the Nepal journey again. And when I got there, they were like, okay, within 2 weeks, you're going to see muscles start growing back. And I was like, okay, this is fucking ridiculous. Like at this point, it's been 5 years of no answers, right? And no improvement. And I was like, okay, this is going to be insane if this actually happens. And I hate to admit, like I went there thinking that I was going to be a hero after this therapy, because I was going to go to Nepal and the Himalayas and discover this guy who can show me the herbs and give me the concoction that can heal muscular dystrophy. I'm going to bring it back to the United States and I'm going to give the cure to everybody. And so I was with the mindset of, all right, I'm going to test this out, not the mindset of I believe in this. And so it went 60 days, 2 months in, and I wasn't seeing any improvement. And so I called Chelsea and I was like, look, I'm not seeing any improvement. Like, this is really hard. It's 6 hours a day of them rubbing on me and eating a hard diet and being alone. And yeah, it was tough. And she was like, okay, but if you don't do this, if you don't finish it out, then what are you going to think? You're going to forever be like, oh, well, if I finish those 30 days, then what would happen? Maybe something amazing would happen. So I was like, you're right. And so I finished it, and it was difficult, and I was proud of myself. And I think that really was the catalyst of me starting to grow muscle back. I think it could have worked a lot better if I believed in it. And people ask me all the time, what is, out of all the modalities that you've done, what is the biggest thing that's helped you the most? And I said, it's the belief.
Oh man, I got chills.
It's the placebo. It's like if someone comes to me and they're like, I don't know what to do. I've tried everything. And I'm like, all right, you're going to eat this towel right here and you're going to be cured. And they believe that it's probably going to happen. You read the book, You Are the Placebo by Joe Dispenza. There's hundreds and hundreds of accounts of people healing themselves because they believe they were given a pill that was going to heal them. And it had nothing in it. And that's proof that we have control of our own body. We have control of our mind. We have control of our genetics, our genes, our DNA. Like Dispenza is proving scientifically that we can change our genetic structure. We can change our genes and the onset or the outcome of what is turned on or off. And I just believe that, like, once I understood what muscular dystrophy was, or my type, facioscapulohumeral, it's a genetic onset from your environment. I thought that it was my environment outside, not my mental state, not my inner state, not my gut health, but it was all that. Once I understood that, then I realized that we have complete control and we can turn the switch off. And kind of going on a tangent here, but I think my point is that you just have to truly believe in whatever you're doing. And then to go back into our beginning of our conversation, it's like, yeah, there's so much information out there and there are so many things that truly work. Like, look at the people that are, I think this is crazy, and ultimately it might cause more damage, but the people that are doing the carnivore diet of just meat, or like just raw meat and nothing else, and they're having unbelievable healing stories and miracles. Why do I think that is? Because they're getting rid of processed foods. And they believe it.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing in diet and healing is getting rid of processed foods,
right?
Like, because there's so many chemicals in there, and if you eliminate, if you just go and you're trying to heal anything, whatever it is, go and eat only foods that are not bagged for 2 weeks and see what happens. And people, when I tell them that, they're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? How do I eat stuff that's not in a package? I'm like, go to your produce section and find fruits and vegetables, or go to your local farm and go pick your own apples or potatoes, or grow your own. Like, you're going to create your own miracles. And
well, I'm so inspired and encouraged by hearing your story in this detail. And with the amount of heart and intention there is in it. I was really hoping you would go there, because I've had the distinct honor and privilege of getting to hear about it in very, sentimental and settings, where you opened up about this journey that's freaking scary as hell. I mean, I can't even imagine. And I just the concept of the power of belief, because listen, I've been around you for a couple of years now. And so I've gotten that question a lot too from people, where they're like, what do you think healed Morgan? And I've had this conversation with you, but I don't think I've ever had it in this clarity to hear you say that. But that's what I've said to people. I've said, like, well, I've heard of a lot of different things that he's done and experienced, and he's had breakthrough moments. But in my opinion, and I always said this is my opinion, this is not, now I can say it's your opinion because I've heard it from you. I said, in my opinion, from what I've listened to, though, and heard, what I really believe has been the change of the guard has been that Morgan believes that he's healed himself. And that, I don't know if that's the right way to say it or not, but you believe in the power of what you've done to turn the corner, right? And, I go back to when we talked to Aaron Rodgers, and he talked about, healing his Achilles, and, I tried to drill down on it with him. Like, how'd you do it? There was so many things, right? Whether it was diet, and it was a combination of a lot of things, right? But one of the things he talked about was the power of prayer, and that was the same thing that was going on with you in Nepal. It sounds like it's like he talked about the power of, the love and the energy that was going into his leg from these people that cared about him and that were praying over him, and the prayer that he had. And I don't even know if there was necessarily a denomination to that prayer, but it's that connection to a higher spirit that he was saying. And, when you talk about belief, it's like you can't make anyone believe in something, right? Like, belief has to come organically from you. And like, I've been on a very deep search for meaning and faith for a couple of years, and have had a breakthrough in my own belief in Christ. And nobody could tell that to me. That's been something I've had to live and experience. And I just think that the power of coming to that belief on your own, that's the gig. That's the gig.
Yeah, and it comes through experience and experimentation, and like to bring it into the golf game. Like I think the reason why my short game is so good is because when I was a kid, all I did was experiment, and I would try new positions of the ball. I would close my stance. I would open my stance. I would hit crazy, weird shots that felt interesting, or like just had an imagination and creativity. And I know that we all have creativity in us. And I think having some place in your life to be able to sit down or go out and allow yourself to be creative is super, super healing as well.
Yeah.
Because it allows the mind to think and be free for a minute of the structure that you put yourself in your 9 to 5. And creativity also allows you to dream and embody what you want to become. And when I realized that, when I was younger, I listened to a lot of like golf philosophy, and psychologists say that, oh, you need to visualize. And a lot of many sports psychologists, whether it's in golf or not, we're always talking about visualization. I think it helps a lot, but I think embodiment of where you want to become, of who you want to become, is the biggest thing that you could ever do for yourself, because it's not going to get you where you want by just seeing yourself. You have to feel it. So it's like when I look in the mirror, I try to truly feel myself with full muscles again.
Wow.
And to be clear, like I'm not healed yet. I don't have full muscles yet. Like my pecs are coming back. My right quad is stable. Like my muscle is coming back, and I'm still on a healing journey, and I still have a million answers to find, and I don't have them all. And I read books daily to try to figure out more answers, and people that have been on the conquest to find those healing modalities all over the world. And like there's so many people that are on the same mission, and we have to understand that like everyone is going through shit, and everyone has a story that is difficult. Like I've never met a person in my life that is like, oh, I've had a perfect life.
Right.
Everything's amazing. No, like everyone has shit that they're going through, no matter what it is. And taking time to just contemplate and allow your mind to just flow is like so important. And looking at yourself in the mirror and telling yourself, I love you. And truly knowing that your love for yourself can carry you to the places that you want. And that embodiment, what I was talking about, is really hard to accomplish. It took me years to finally be able to see like, okay, 5 years down the road, this Morgan is like this. Like I am like that. I'm already that. I am this. Instead of meditating and being like, I'm growing my muscles back. I said that a million times, it's my muscles are back. Like even if they're not, like the mind doesn't know the difference between if it's actually happened or if you're telling yourself that it's happened. Like it's like if you go through the meditation of walking through your kitchen and you open the fridge and you go into the fruit drawer and you take out a lemon and you put the lemon on the counter and you cut open the lemon and you take the lemon to your mouth and you squeeze the lemon onto your tongue. Probably right now, if you're actually listening to this and feeling it, you'll probably start salivating a little bit.
Yeah, I was.
Because you're just like, your body knows what's coming, right? So it's just proof right there that our mind can affect our body.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah. Yeah, belief is, I was thinking of John Mayer's song, Belief. It says, belief's beautiful armor, makes for the heaviest sword. It's just a great
heavy
song.
sword.
Yeah. And like, I think belief comes from a lot of different places and how you get to it, right? Like I've struggled a ton with believing in myself and thinking that I could do whatever it was that, then I think that's normal, obviously. But like I've found a lot of belief through faith, you know, and having faith in a higher power, which gives me like a love back towards myself. And a lot of that's come through a connection to God and Christ. And that's been interesting, something I never would have really thought of, but it's been, again, like that unique journey for everybody to believe, I think is special.
Belief is hard, man, because it comes through trial and error. It comes through failures. And a lot of people, I don't believe in failures anymore. Like it's just instances that you learn from. Like it's just lessons. There's no positive or negative. It's just lessons. Like you're going to continue to grow. You're going to continue to understand like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't in my best interest, or that didn't make me feel that good, but now I know. And now I know to experiment with this, and it's like once you push through those barriers, you realize that is the way.
I love it.
Like I have this book right here, The Obstacle is the Way, and I'm still on the intro, and I'm stuck on these couple sentences that Marcus Aurelius wrote. The impediment to action advances action. And I had to think about that. And it's so true. And the next line is, what stands in the way becomes the way.
100%.
And it's like, well, why does that have to be the way? Can there be a way around it? But what stands in the way is you have to find a way around or through or under or over. Because if you see potential and you see a dream, then you have to get it done. It's really thought provoking, and I like books and things like that. It's amazing. I think just experimentation is so important, and that's what's hard about today, is because we all want instant gratification. Like most young kids today have everything at their fingertips, and like living in Costa Rica has taught me so much, because when I come back to the States, you have everything that you could ever need within 2 miles. Like there's 3 Walgreens and CVS and a Walmart and food stores and shopping malls, and it's just instant gratification, and that's not how hard things get done.
No.
And to achieve and to grow, you have to do hard things.
Well, and I think, the human life was designed to be hard, you know? We were designed not to be in ease, but to go through hardship. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why there's a growing sense of, meaningless and purposeless lives, because a lot of life is really easy now. Like we don't have to hunt for food. We don't have to frickin' carry logs to warm our house every night for fire. Like we have let's talk about like during the Great Depression in the 1930s, like there was a global poverty rate over 80%. Today it's less than 10%, yet there's more depression than ever. Mm-hmm. Riddle me that.
Because it's easy.
Right.
It's a state of comfort.
It's amazing that like there's a 1-to-1 correlation with fulfillment and commitment, or with happiness and hardship. Like there's this corollary that's really hard to necessarily say, because the American dream, right, is freedom. It's retirement. It's frickin' being able to do whatever you want. And Viktor Frankl talks about this in Man's Search for Meaning, when coming to America, approaching Ellis Island, you see the Statue of Liberty, and you have this incredible moment of seeing what America embodies and represents, and it's this freedom, right? And he said the allure and the illusion of that freedom is that on the West Coast of the United States should be the Statue of Responsibility, because with great freedom comes also great responsibility. And I always frickin' loved that from him. And Man's Search for Meaning is just an all-time frickin' book.
Wow.
And but I think to close, thank you. First off, man, for your vulnerability, and for sharing your story and for being a light. You are a beacon of hope, I think, for so many, of one for me, in the least. And
Thanks,
you've inspired the hell out of me. We want to make an impact. We want to share the word. We want to share the truth. I believe in societal truths. This isn't just a world of unknowing. Like, there are truths in this world. And we want to be a place that looks for those. And so, to our viewership and our fans and our community, like, thank you for being on this journey with us. It's not, this is special for Morgan and I to get to do this together, but it's really special when it's shared with you, and your support, and hearing about your own journeys and what your own curiosities are that come from these conversations. Like, that's what's fuel for us. And so we'd love to continue to interact and hear from you, and know from us, like, the commitment back to you guys is that we're going to be in search for these answers. We're going to be soldiers in the battlefield, per se, for truth. And Morgan and I are making a commitment back to each other that we really believe in this. We believe in the power of great conversation, revealing truth, and we're going to be recommitting ourselves to putting more content in the world, whether it's in a forum like this together or exploring it in forums on our own some too. I think we each have things that we're uniquely curious about too, and we want to be able to explore those things. And so all that's to say, thanks so much for being here with us, and we're going to keep diving deep, and the power I can fly is a real thing.
Oh yeah. Just, I love the idea of just thought-provoking conversation. It's just asking questions, continue to ask questions, and try not to be offended by anything that you hear, because we're just on a search
100%.
As well. And it's something that will never end.
And it's like, there's great power in that. It's like, you can have your own truths, right? That you believe, or your worldview that's wrapped in, like, that you believe this is right, and just whatever your belief is. But don't let that enrage you into judgment of others that don't have that worldview. Like, that's where the fundamental problem lies, is when we all frickin' want to throw fists because we don't see eye to eye. Yeah. It's like, I can have my own belief in what is truth, but I want to hear about yours too. Right. And let's collaborate on it. Let's talk about it. Maybe it'll open my mind and I'll learn something I would have never even frickin' imagined.
Exactly. Talk about it.
But, there's frickin' magic in that, just the power of listening. And man, the power of a question. That's the whole gig right there. So keep asking.
Keep it coming.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Good work.
Thanks, brother.